My name is Esther Haluk. I work as a lecturer in STT Walterpos, a biblical seminary of the King Me Tabernacle Church of Papua. And I also involve or work in a church. And the last one, I also involve in women movement in West Papua. The long history of discrimination from the people when we interact with outsiders who come to West Papua. The first one from missionary, the Western missionaries, they came here, bring gospel, but they think that we are pagan people. We still live in darkness. Our culture is a pagan culture, and they try to Christianize us, because in their view that we are still living in the darkness. For example, in my culture, in Baling Valley, my grandfather burned what we call as a kaneke. Kaneke is, in Kaneke we have traditional bag, and then inside the traditional bag we have this sacred stone, so that we call ye, and we put it inside the soup. So actually we call it Yesu. So those are things. And when my grandfather accepted Christianity, he decided to burn all the things that related to their past life. Well, actually, the things that they burned, the sacred things, it's related to the relationship of the people, the local people, with the land, with the environment, and their relationship with the community, with the people around them, and also it's related to the relationship with them and the highest power, or God. So it's actually in our culture, or in our belief, this relationship, it's not linear, but it's in cycle, never ending. So those kind of things, when we burn down the things that really hold, it has connection with all the rituals that we have in our society. It like cutting out the things that connect us with the past and also the present life. It's what is happening. When the Indonesian come to West Papua, they also have the same point of view when they interact with us, that we are backward, stupid, our culture is inferior than the Indonesian's culture. That's point of view owned by the people who come to West Papua. So this kind of view still exists until now. They will see us in our sector. They will see us as not capable of thinking of our own. Cannot do like cannot rule our own government or any sector of life. They also alienate us from our own culture. They don't acknowledge it's like a lack acknowledgement of the local wisdom. In the time with the Indonesian government, we are forced to leave the traditional way of living, and the local wisdom that we have possessed is not appreciated. That's why they decide everything. And when the Indonesian came, they changed everything, even the name of the place, mountain, they name as they like. They do not use the name given by the local people. I come from a tribe, Dani tribe, where we have this very modern, actually, in agriculture. Our main food is potatoes, cassava and stuff. In our cultural system, like for example in planting potatoes and working together, how we work together, how we harvest, how to fertilize the land, or how we connect with the environment related to the agricultural things. We already possess this local wisdom. But then when the government, the Indonesian government came to West Papua, is they start to teaching us about how to plant rice, and they bring very whole new things, whole new knowledge to us. They for example, in how to work together with people, how to organize the working in the field, and those are things that they start teaching us about their way. It's not about learning our ways and how to improve that, but instead they are teaching us about how they plant, how they harvest, how they work together. The Nduga crisis is the complete representation or complete example about militarism, the extraction of the natural resources, the development, and the violence. Development approach, which is very, which can be said very militaristic, also cause conflict between the local people who reject or who do not want this national program, because it will cut several areas belongs to the local people, and this road building pass through some of the customary land, and this cause problem or tension in the local people with the worker. So when the local people start to resist, it creates tension and conflict between the local people with the military. This project is actually coordinated or run by the military. So the conflict between the local people and the military, it caused the local people to flee from their hometown to several regency around Duga. For example, to Wamena, or to Lanijaya, or to Tolikara, and also to Timika. So those are the internally displaced person. And in this crisis that happened in 2018 up to now, we can see the violence and also the militaristic approach used by the central government in Jakarta to handle and to overcome the conflict, instead of inviting the local people and to approach them in using peaceful action or peaceful approach to and dialogue to talk with the local Papuan. It creates more human rights. Many people died in the crisis in the process when they flee from their hometown. On the way, they have to leave. They have to live in the jungle. They have to survive without food for days and weeks. So many dies. Most of them were women and children. Women who were pregnant at the time. They have to live in the jungle. They have to pass or walk on the very dangerous, steep, mountainous areas, and at the same time, some women, they gave birth on the way, and there are also efforts from several women, especially Duga women, who shared about their experience, about the things that happening in their community, and also tell the government to stop, to withdraw all these military approach that is used or implemented in Duga, and also invite these people or do the campaign. The Indonesian government in general, they do not really talk openly. Not only the central government, but also the local government, the Papuan province government, do not really talk openly about this Duga crisis. So some of these volunteer. Also, most of us are women, and we try to build a network. We try to create awareness about the real situation that is happening in Duga. We try to have a coalition to record about all these human rights abuses that is happening in Duga, and share all this data to be known to the outside world. So that's the things that we've done so far. There are many problems faced by women in West Papua, in all sectors of life. In the political sector, until now, us, when I talk about us, West Papua, we still ask about our status in Indonesia, our political status in Indonesia. Even though there are like campaign about our situation in West Papua that has been legalized in 1969, but as Papuan we still ask about our status, political status. And when we start asking about that, the Indonesian government answered us with the security approach and militarism in West Papua. Even though Indonesia acknowledges themselves as a democratic country, but the fact in West Papua, there's no democracy. We have limited freedom of speech or freedom of expression in West Papua. In the economic sector, actually, the main problem is the wrong approach, the development approach that implemented by the Indonesian government. It's not really a suitable or proper approach actually to be implemented, because indigenous people with different value, different customs that need to be recognized, and the approach used has to be approach that really understand the uniqueness of each of these indigenous people, and then it can be used to implement to find out what is the best approach that can be used to elevate or to empower the local people or the grassroots. Without the proper approach like that, it's useless. Policy related to big scale of investment in West Papua also give impact to this land grabbing, illegal logging, and the palm oil plantation that is open in several areas in Papua, which cause the problem with the land, and it has big impact to us as a women, because we still have a very strong connection with our land. When we talk about the social sector, we talk about health system and also educational system. In my opinion, there are two big problems. The first one is the high rates of mortality in West Papua. Not only the high rates of the death among newborn babies and mother, but also the high rates in other diseases. The differences in the health system or health service provided by the government. In a big town or big city around Papua, it is easy to get or to access the health service, but it is very hard for the West Papuan who lives in rural area to access the health service. And most of West Papua lives in rural areas, not in a big city. It's also happened in educational sector. The system doesn't work. In rural areas, there are schools without teachers. They have students, they have buildings, but they don't have teachers. And these high rates of illiteracy cause women to cannot access or have like marginalized from all sectors of life. The special autonomy law specialize the funds is said to be specialized for education, but because of the system doesn't work, we don't know where the funds goes. So far, I see three basic problems in a church. The first one is the misinterpretation of the Bible teachings, especially on the teaching of the theology belongs to Apostle Paul, and which is said that women cannot stand in front of the congregation and cannot preach. Those are the teaching that misinterpreted so far that caused the gender problem in the church. The second one is the historical background where the American missionary came to West Papua. They have this, because at that time there are problems of gender in their society. Their background also influenced meet the problem also, because here in West Papua we have very strong patriarchal views in our society, so it meets, and then it's this social construction gives more to this patriarchal point of view. And then the last one, the third one, is the domination of men in all aspect of the church services that cause or marginalize women. So there's a lack of involvement of women in church service everywhere. Related to my work in campus, I teach, this year I teach gender. I think changing young West Papuan mindset related to gender is really important. That is why I connect what I do in activism as a women activist. I connect it with my teaching in campus. I see that there are injustice that happen to women in our society, like in cultural injustice, structural injustice. So I bring these young students to see reality about the problem of gender bias that exists in the society. And I want to have them to change the way they look at women, the way they look at the women roles in society, especially related to the theology, the Paul theology, the interpretation. So they have this new way of interpret the gospel teaching when they go to the society. In my involvement with the women movement, this movement consists of women from different backgrounds. We talk about everything. We talk about education, we talk about environment, we also talk about politics, or in health sector and in education, in different issue. We discuss, we try to involve, we try to invite and involve as many young women as possible in changing the mindset of the young Papuan, in seeing the biggest picture. In West Papua, we have many problems. We have humanity crisis and also the political crisis that is happening now in West Papua. I would like to ask you, every one of you who watch this video, to stand in solidarity with us, West Papuan, to speak up on our behalf about the situation.